Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Pamela Coons at the Wellness Radio TV. Thank you so much for joining us this afternoon for a very, very touching conversation. September is Suicide Prevention Month. We've talked about this a few times on some of our shows. I am very, very honored to have as my guest a mom who has experienced something that nobody should have to go through, but she has gone through it, and she has truly found the peace that surpasses all understanding. Absolutely. To help her get through this. Charmel Beckford Richardson. Yes, Charmel, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. Thank you.
I appreciate you being here to share your story. The statistics show that African American children are committing suicide at a rate higher than any other group of kids. As a matter of fact, it says between the ages of 5 and 13, they're committing suicide at a rate higher than any other group of kids. Suicide is the number one cause of violent related deaths in the ages between 10 and 15. Mm-hmm. The number two cause of death between the ages of 15 and 35. Mm-hmm. The number one cause of death, suicide. The number one cause of death of Floridians between the ages of 35 and 65.
Yep.
Now, I'm not sure about any other place, but this is a snapshot of the United States of America in a place that's called the Sunshine State.
Absolutely.
In the home of Disney, supposedly the happiest place on earth is what they bill it as.
Right.
The happiest place on earth. Yet we have people who are facing challenges and they feel that the only solution is to take their own lives. And Charmel, again, thank you for being here and willing to share your story.
Yes, ma'am. Ms. Pamela, thank you so much for having me. It's definitely a blessing because I'll be able to, we're able to reach so many people doing this, and then just bringing the awareness, and just telling them, hey, children are suffering, they're suffering in silence, and they need to talk, they need help. How can we get them the help that they need?
Children are suffering, and they're suffering in silence.
Yes, ma'am.
And sometimes we as parents,
we miss it.
We miss it. We think we're paying attention, but we miss it.
One of the things Khalil used to say to me when we would have conversations is, Mama, you hear me, but you're not listening. And I would say, what do you mean? I can hear you clearly. And he's like, yeah, but you're not getting it. You're not getting it. I will help me understand what it is you're saying. He's like, I don't even know how to explain it to you. So how do we help a child that cannot even articulate what they're feeling so that you can get them the help that they so desperately need? It's hard to do that. And so as a mom, you have to try and figure it out while working a regular job, while taking care of other kids, while doing your wifely or house duties, so the kids and their emotions and their feelings tend to take a back seat. And it's unfortunate when the kid says, Mom doesn't have time for me. No one understands me. No one hears me. No one can help me. So I'm going to do what I think is best, and I'm going to solve it this way. I'm going to take my own life.
And so you found Khalil. Yes, Khalil is your 16-year-old son.
Yes, ma'am.
What happened that day?
So just like any day, I came home and I was sitting in the living room, and then there was a knock at the door, and then first thing I thought was, oh my goodness, he done left his key again, and he knows better. And so I opened the door, and it was his girlfriend at the time, and it was her and her mom, and they looked kind of frantic, and I was like, what's going on? But she was like, is Khalil here? And I said, no, he's not here. Normally if I'm home and he's home, he'll come out and see me. If not, it's because he's at the court with his friends skateboarding, which is what he loved to do. And so I said, well, wait a moment, I'll go in the back and I'll check and see. So I'm walking down the hall and I go to open the door and the door's locked, and I'm like, oh goodness. He's locked the door again, and I'm like, I've told him about doing this, so I'm fussing behind the door, just gonna go crazy. And so I picked the lock, opened the door, and then as I, scanned the room, I didn't see anything other than his messy room as normal, and I was fussing about that too. And I'm like, I don't think he's here. So then I happen to look over to the closet and I'm like, Khalil, I know you hear me calling you. Are you ignoring me?
So what did you see? You said you look over toward the closet.
And him standing in the closet.
Oh, you saw him standing in the closet.
So to me, the way it looked was as if he was standing in the closet. Okay, so the way the closet is, he had curtains in his towards his closet. So the way his body was angled, you couldn't see that, there was something from his neck. So it just looked like he was in the back of going to the back of his closet getting clothes. So I was like, Khalil, don't you hear me talking to you? Are you really ignoring me right now? What's going on with you? So this is the part where I like to tell people where smart people become a little stupid. I turned him and his body just turned. And again, it never registered to me that I'm turning him and he's not the one turning, right? So
because you touched him to turn and you're thinking that he is moving with your force willingly.
And that was not the case. And so as he turns to me at this point, when a person has hung and they've suffocated, the tongue lodges out the mouth, and there's saliva and things like that happens. At this point, I'm looking at him because his eyes are closed and his tongue is hanging out, and I say, Khalil, why are you making this face? And wow. So again, it still never dawned on me that something's wrong. And so as I begin to turn him some more, and I saw like the saliva hanging down, coming down still, I said, what are you doing? What's going on? And I heard the belt tighten, and I looked at his neck, and I looked up, and my whole world stopped. I felt like the earth was getting ready to open up and suck me in. There was a weight that came on my body that kind of had me crouched over. The pain in my chest felt like an elephant was sitting on my chest. I began to have a panic attack. I felt like I was having a heart attack. I was ready to throw in the towel because I could not understand what was happening. And I often hear people say that the Lord kept me clothed in my right mind. I literally lost my mind for a few moments. My children came in saying, Mommy, what's wrong with Khalil? So now they got a glimpse of this too.
How old were your children at the time?
5 and 3.
5 and 3.
Yes, ma'am.
And so where was the girlfriend and the mom who came in?
They were at the front door. And in between me looking at Khalil and I actually tried to get him down and couldn't. So I went out there and I was like, did you know that this was going to happen? Did you know he was thinking of doing this? What happened? And she just started screaming and yelling, and she went out into the middle of the road and was laying in the middle of the road. She was like, oh my God. And I mean, when I say she was bawling, and her mom was like bawling as well. I don't know if this is something that they plan to do together. I don't know if he got upset because their relationship had ended. I don't know. There was no note left or anything like that for me to say, okay, this is what happened and this is why he did what he did. Khalil didn't show me signs of depression. If he was dealing with depression, he hid it well. He acted like every 16-year-old do, very temperamental, don't want to do what they're told. He has an attitude when they're told to do something. You just equate that with 16-year-old woes. You know what I mean? And I didn't take it as anything great to really look into. But had he, was like, Mom, I'm severely depressed, or, I'm thinking of this, I'm sure it would have been different.
So you're there.
Yes, ma'am.
You're looking at your 16-year-old in the state of death.
Death, yes, ma'am.
And you have your children, a 5 and a 3-year-old. How are you trying to comfort them in all of this?
So, in this process, where we live, because I had to call 911. I had to remember how to call 911. I could not remember how to dial 911. I could not remember how to dial my husband. I could not remember his name. I couldn't remember the kid's name. I was shaking so badly. And in the midst of all the chaos, I could hear myself say, get it together. You've got to call for help. Snap out of it. You've got to call for help. I believe that's nothing but the Holy Spirit. But in that, I came to, and I was like, okay, focus, Charmel, focus. I'm talking myself out of going nuts because that's how I felt.
Oh, absolutely.
And I said, okay, you've got to call 911. And I'm like, where's my phone? My phone was in my hand, but I could not find the phone. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And your body is, the heat that comes over you because your body's in, your heart rate is going like maybe 250 or more because you're panicking, you're hyperventilating. You don't know what to do. Your world, the room felt like it was closing in on me. And so I called 911 and I'm telling the lady, I said, my son just he's hung himself. And I understand that the operators for 911, they have a very hard task and they have to be as nonchalant, if you will, not with so much emotion. But the many questions, well, is he breathing? Is he this? That's the last thing. You don't want them to, bombard you with a whole bunch of questions. What's this? What's that? Ma'am, calm down. I was like, ma'am, if you can see what I see, you wouldn't ask me to calm down. So just please get help over here quickly as possible because I still want him here. Needless to say, when they came, pulled up, I got the kids and I took them to our neighbor's house because I could no longer shelter them from coming in the room because I was screaming. They started screaming, Mommy, what's wrong with Khalil? What's wrong with Khalil? What's wrong with Khalil? And I'm like trying to tell them nothing without lying to them. But as of right now, I'm like, we're trying to help him. Something happened and we're trying to help him. So I'm still trying to shelter their little minds from this traumatic experience. Right. And the only way I could do is by, executing them out of the picture. So I got them down to my neighbor, who's our in-laws, and they held them there for me. And I came back in, and I'm standing there. So EMT comes in. EMT puts. Where's
the girlfriend and the mom?
They're out in the street. They're still out there. They never come in the house. I call EMT comes. EMT comes. They put the oxygen on his finger, and they put the leads on to check for heart rate, and they tell me what I already know is, what has happened, and they confirm, that he has passed on, and I just felt my soul try to escape my body. I got it's like a walking zombie. That feeling, the emotions, the wave of emotions, the hurt, the pain, the shame, the burden, all at one time. Unbearable. Unbearable. And I just begin to...
Your son is dead.
Yes, ma'am.
And dealing with the hurt, and then you said the shame.
Yes, ma'am.
Talk about what you were ashamed of, and your child is dead.
How could you not know? Where were you? You're not a good mom. The blame game. Not, oh, the child is gone, but that's the selfish part of us.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
The selfish part of us that is no longer thinking about this that has happened, but the way people will make you feel.
People are going to see you.
Yes. And I had to get past that. I wasn't going to, I toiled with myself about putting it on Facebook. And the very next day, I actually tried to go to work. I don't even know how I got there. Still in shock. I drove 8:30 in the morning, had not gotten any sleep because I was up the whole night crying. And I drove to work, and when I got to work, I told a friend of mine, a coworker of mine, what had happened. And they were like, what are you doing here? Please leave. And everyone was crying. The office was very somber because they hadn't met Khalil before. So just the devastation, and they were so good to me. They brought food, they sent cards, they sent flowers.
How did you think you were supposed to go to work?
I don't know. trying to find normalcy right then. I don't know. The shock of everything, like this, it was like a bad dream. I'm waiting to wake up, literally waiting to wake up. I'm like, okay, this is gotta be a dream. I'm gonna get up. This is a bad dream that's never ending. Did not happen. When I drove back to Hawthorne, and I pulled up in front of the house, and there were numerous of cars from people coming to give their condolences and things. It's like, okay, this still isn't real. This still isn't real. This can't be real.
You still had not accepted that Khalil was gone.
No.
When you were going through this process of thinking about what you missed, Charmel Beckford Richardson is the mom of 16-year-old Khalil, who committed suicide. She walked in and found him hanging in his bedroom closet, and willing to share her story with us today. When you think about this shame and what you should have noticed, what you feel like you should have noticed, what is it that you say to parents today who have teenagers who are going through what we call their teenager moments? Because it sounds like he acted like any other teenager.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. When everyone found out that he had committed suicide, died by suicide rather, they said, no, not Khalil. No, he's a happy kid. He was the one that when he came into the room, everybody smiled. He brought joy to everybody. Everybody loved him, you know? And it was like, here's this kid who was able to give everybody love, share love, and he just wants everybody around him happy. And because he used to say that a lot, he's like, I just want everybody to be happy.
He wanted everybody to be happy, but he wasn't.
But he wasn't.
And so let's get back to the girlfriend and the mom. Did you find out why they came by that day?
No.
You don't know to this day why they came by that day?
Absolutely not.
Why would the mom come with the girlfriend to see her boyfriend?
I have no idea.
Have you talked to them anymore?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
So this just happened in May of 17.
Yes, ma'am.
Of 2017. And there was no, that's odd.
Yeah.
So what do you think?
Okay, so I can speculate relationship issues, but one of the things that my faith has led me to was not to play the blame game. Because when you play the blame game, you become angry. And what has helped me in this process is my faith. Praying fervently for healing, for understanding, to be delivered out of this place of unknown, find my new normal, to live this life and not be stuck in the past life, stuck on May 24th, reliving the moment. Yes, I suffer from now PTSD because there's not a day that goes by that I don't see the image.
Of course not.
In my head. Every day. Sometimes 10, 15 times a day.
So you still live in the same house?
I still live in the same house.
And how is it going in that room?
It has become the place where I go to meditate.
Really?
Yes, ma'am.
But what was it like before?
I could not open the door. I left it as it was when he passed away for about 8 months.
8 months the room stayed?
Stayed just as it was. Even the bowl that he was eating out of, I left it there.
Really?
I did.
What was your thought process in that?
I couldn't go in. I just could not go in. I could not go in without...
And what about others going in? You didn't want anybody else to go in?
Oh, the door was closed and locked.
The door was closed
and locked. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. The sheet that was rumbled up on the bed, the blanket, I left everything as it was.
And so what gave you what you needed, Charmel, to go in there 8 months later?
So this was around, I want to say, Thanksgiving, Christmas time, if you will, and...
What were people saying to you in the meantime about cleaning that room out?
Do it in your own time.
Do it in your own time?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
There's no rush.
Okay.
Don't rush it. Now, my mom, on the other hand, she was like, oh, you just need to go in. I said, Mommy, you know, you have to get to a point where you just have to take a stance, because no one can tell you how to grieve.
Mm-hmm.
People want to tell you how to grieve. They want to tell you how long you shall grieve. You know what I mean? No one can tell you how long to grieve your child.
Yeah, yeah.
You will forever mourn them.
Mm.
You will forever mourn them. It's an empty space.
And what happened the day that you decided to go in Khalil's room?
The day I decided to go in there,
Why did you decide to go in?
it just felt right.
It did?
It just felt right. I felt that calming, and I actually thought that I wasn't going to be able to do it. I sat down, and I had got some carpet that I was going to put down, that I put down, and for the first 10, 15 minutes, I just stood in one spot.
Mm.
And I felt, you know, my chest rising, and I said, okay. I said, God, you're with me. I need your help through this. And then a calming just came over me. It was like a little peace came over me.
Mm.
Almost as to say, Khalil was like, it's okay, Mom. It's okay, you know? And then the kids, me and TJ and Caleb, my two little ones, we started taking the stuff out, cleaning out the room, and we still have his bed in there. It's just very calming. It's a spiritual, I call it my spiritual room, the place where I go to meditate, because
Wow.
I got rid of that stigma that was in there. I turned it around.
Mm. Wow. Whew, that's heavy.
Yes, ma'am.
Charmel Beckford Richardson, whose son committed suicide May 24th, 2017, just a little over a year ago.
Yes, ma'am.
And how in the world, Charmel, can you talk about this now? I'm ready to go and start crying for you. How do you do this, Charmel?
Again, and I know everyone has their way that they deal with things. It is my faith, it is my faith, it is my faith. Strong in faith. During this time, I believe I've gotten so much closer to God because I spend so much time praying.
Mm-hmm.
Because I needed it.
Mm-hmm.
I needed it.
Yeah.
I couldn't turn to friends because they did not know.
They didn't know what to say.
They didn't know what to say.
Yeah.
They don't know what to say. They don't know how to put it. They don't know how to approach you. And sometimes when people come, they're like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." You don't want to see. You don't want to experience that because it kind of puts you back a little bit. You know what I mean? You don't want the whole, "Oh, I'm so," or they talk to you in that way, and it's like, "Look, you don't have to do that. I'm fine." And then,
But not everybody can be.
yeah.
And so they're approaching it from that perspective.
Mm-hmm.
What do you say to parents? They're parents who've lost children.
Mm-hmm.
And as one lady that I interviewed said, it's not supposed to be this way.
Yeah.
My daughter was supposed to bury me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not supposed to bury my daughter.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you say? Because there are other parents who've lost children for various reasons. What do you say to parents who grieve, who are grieving the loss of a child, and especially suicide?
You can only, because you're going to experience so many emotions all at one time, then they're going to come in waves. One moment you're going to be smiling, the next minute you're going to be crying, the next minute you're going to be, blaming yourself. What I can say is you take it 1 second at a time. You're going to have to. If you try to get your healing the very next moment, it's not going to work. You're going to always go back. You know what I mean? You have to take your time. Don't allow anyone to force you to rush the process. You've got to go through the process.
Yeah.
You have to go through the process to get your healing.
And that healing that only can come from the one that gives the peace that surpasses all understanding.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because He's given it to me. He's given me
You're
the peace.
amazing.
Thank you.
You're amazing.
Thank you.
You are amazing.
And joy.
Yeah.
I never knew what joy felt like.
Wow.
Before. Never knew what joy felt like. I honestly felt I did not have a purpose until now.
And so what do you feel your purpose is now?
To spread the word.
Spread the word. You've started a foundation.
Yes, ma'am.
Khalil's Voice.
Yes,
Khalil's Voice. And tell me, what is it what's your goal with Khalil's Voice?
Ultimately, to get into the schools, to bring more awareness, to have people talk about this taboo topic. No one wants to talk about it. Parents go through the hurt and the shame and the burden, and they just want to leave it as is. They don't want to talk about it. They don't want to say anything about it. And the children that are friends with these kids that have passed away, they need people to talk to.
Yeah.
They need people to talk to.
And so what are some of the things that you would like to do with Khalil's Voice?
Well, get into the schools and tell them about how to deal with coping skills before they get to this point. Give them the resources that they need so that they can reach out. Let them know there's people that you can talk to. Give them those resources in the community. Educate. Look for the signs. That's what I want for Khalil's Voice as far as to get out there.
Yeah. Don't get out of the shot here.
Yes,
this
ma'am.
way. I had no idea. I had someone tell me that there, and I don't even know who the names are, at least 2 rap artists who have done mock suicides. Did you know that?
No, ma'am.
Yeah. I don't know who they are, but our children are being fed this message through rap music, glorifying a life of crime, glorifying being in prison, and now glorifying taking your own life. And because of that, our children have access to things, we don't know what they're watching, we don't know what they're listening to, and the only thing that we truly have to work is to cover them in the blood, plead the blood over them, and rebuke all of these demonic forces that are making little African American children between the ages of 10 and 15 are committing suicide at a rate higher than any other group of children. And because the media does not report suicides,
no, they don't.
We don't know that it's happening. And then families are ashamed to talk about. So parents don't even have an outlet to be able to talk to other parents who've experienced it, or even to find out what are the things that we ought to be looking for. What are the signs we should be looking for? Because you don't feel like you saw anything.
At all.
Because what parent would see something and not do anything about it?
Exactly. You as a parent, only thing you can truly do is ask. Right? I've been posting on my Facebook page, and I'm sure a lot of my friends are probably like, oh my God, here she goes again. But until it's in your back door, until it's in your house, you will never be the same. You have to look at it this way. You have to talk to them. You don't want to, but you have to. I didn't think that I would have to talk to my 6-year-old about suicide, but he's been pre-exposed.
And the fact that you know that your 6-year-old's been pre-exposed because of his brother, your 6-year-old might have been pre-exposed through some music that you don't even know he heard.
Absolutely.
Or saw. That 2 rap artists.
Like, why would you even glorify that? Why? Why would you do that? You are in the spotlight. You are
We gotta call it what it is. You gotta call it what it is. I mean, this music is not about love, joy, and peace and prosperity.
No, it's not.
Or about having a relationship with the one who created us. It is that music is on the other side.
It is.
And while it may be popular, those of us who stand for right and stand for light, we got to tell the truth about it.
Yes.
And we can say it's a new day, but God's word never changes.
No, it doesn't.
And
it can change your situation.
It can change your situation,
but it does not change.
But it does not change, and we got to stop shucking and jiving and soft shooting around stuff because our kids are dying.
Yes, they are.
And I was at A. Quinn Jones today, and I think about all of the works of Mr. A. Quinn Jones, who was the first African American principal here in Gainesville, and so that our children would have the right to have an education that everybody else would have, and now
equal.
Yeah,
the best.
Now they have been fed that they should take their lives. And the proof is the statistics that say African American children are now committing suicide faster than any other group.
And you know what? And
at a rate higher, rather.
And this is one of the reasons why I truly, truly, truly am pushing Khalil's voice the way that I am. Because in our community, everything's hush-hush.
Mm-hmm. Everything.
Stop hiding stuff. Deal with the issues.
Talk about it.
Talk about it. Hashtag real combo. Hashtag talk about it. We like to hashtag everything. Let's have the conversation. We need to have the conversation. Whether it's about rape, whether it's about homosexuality, these things, it's in their hearts. And if they feel that I can't come to my safe haven, which is my family,
right,
then who do I have?
Yeah. I was just recently at my family reunion in Tennessee and heard family, after I mentioned that we were doing a national symposium on African Americans overcoming the stigma of mental illness, then hearing family members talk about some of their challenges with their children.
Yeah.
And a family member who actually got up at the Sunday morning service and talked about her mind and said that, I'm not going to let the devil steal my mind. But I guarantee you, after church was over, nobody walked up to her and said, "How you doing?
Yeah.
Are you okay? What did you mean by I'm not going to let the devil steal my mind?"
Yeah, because you're having the conversation. He's talking to you.
Right. But we, I guarantee you, nobody, and I could be wrong, if somebody did, please let me know. I applaud you. But I guarantee you, nobody went up to my cousin after church service or have checked on her since we left that family reunion at the end of July, because we just don't.
blow it off.
We blow it off, and we have to stop doing that.
And I will tell you this, in our culture, in our community, we say things like, "Oh, that doesn't affect Black people."
Wrong.
It could never be so wrong. And I will tell you this, at 23 years old, I was in a volatile relationship with Khalil's dad, and he didn't know that I did this. No one knew that I did this. I got in my car, and on the busiest street, one of the busiest streets in Dade County, which was 27th Avenue by, I call it still Joe Robbie Stadium, the Dolphin Stadium, I drove my car on the wrong side of the road to take my own life. Khalil was 2 years old, and I could not anymore. So I suffered with suicidal ideations. I attempted suicide. And as I'm driving down the wrong side of 27th Avenue, the cars, no one's coming.
Nobody came?
No one was coming. This was during rush hour. This was 6:30 in the afternoon, in the evening hours, and not one car was coming.
Wow.
I turned the car to the, I made a left, and I sat there, and I bawled my eyes out, and I said, "God, you need to help me. Help me with this situation. I can't handle it anymore."
Wow. And 13 years later.
I watched
that 3-year-old succeeded at what you attempted.
What I attempted. So, people don't like to equate, spirits and things like that with certain things that goes on in life. But the enemy has a plan for you too. The Father has a plan, and the enemy has a plan. And if he cannot get you, he will get those that are connected to you.
Jesus. Ooh, Lord Jesus.
But what the enemy tried to make bad, God has turned it for my good. It's all working together. Mm-hmm. It's all working together. What the enemy meant for bad, God is turning it around. Because now people are talking about it. Mm-hmm. People are opening up their eyes. They're wanting to. They're saying, "Hey, look, I've got a problem. I'm not feeling my best today. I got a mental health situation going on."
Yeah.
They're wanting to talk about it.
And I urge all of you. I mean, I urge all of you to like and share this post. There are things that go around on the internet that are not worth watching. This definitely is. I guarantee you, if you have not been impacted by feelings of depression or even suicidal thoughts, somebody in your life has. Mm-hmm. Somebody in your life has. Somebody in your sphere of influence that's listed on your page has. And this is definitely a message that needs to be surfaced around on social media.
Yes,
NAMI, the National Association for the Alliance for the Mentally Ill, in every community, they have workshops, they have family support groups, and I urge you to NAMI.
Yes, ma'am.
Look it up. Here in Gainesville, there's a very active chapter. I'm actually in a support group right now that meets every Tuesday. It's a family-to-family support group, and hearing these stories from families of what they're going through, just to be able to talk about it. I wish, as people plan their family reunions, instead of worrying about what color t-shirts we're going to have this year, can we talk about the mental health of the ones who are going to be wearing the t-shirts and the need to save lives. Yeah. I had an uncle that committed suicide. 20 years later, his son committed suicide.
What? I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, so it is real, and the devil comes to steal, kill, and destroy.
Yes, he does.
And if we're not actively aware of what that means,
yes,
and staying prayed up and keeping our families covered in the blood, we're suffering as a result of it.
Yes.
I thank you for your courage.
Thank you for having me.
Really appreciate you taking the time to come and share this very compelling story. And your website is
KhalilsVoice.org. It's still under construction, but you are able to go there, and I hope to start my own support groups within the organization. So there's a lot of things to come. Keep your eyes out for me. I will be coming probably to a city near you. You never know how big it'll get, you know, so that we can be advocates for those silent voices, be advocate for the kids that are suffering in silence.
And the other thing, you know, with your son saying that he's having this challenge, but he doesn't know how to explain it, if you will Google this, the CDC knew that vaccinations were impacting African American male boys at a 5-time higher rate than other children. It's documented that our boys and these vaccinations are impacting their neurological system, causing attention deficit disorder, other challenges. And when parents don't know that, we're just doing what we're told to do to get our children vaccinated. But look on the internet, you can see some states will allow religious exemption for your child not being vaccinated, religious or philosophical reasons. In Florida, you can not have your child vaccinated for philosophical or religious exemption, and there's a third one. Yeah. So when we are seeing our young men, our boys going through the challenges that they're going through, it's real. And they may not be able to explain what's happening with them and how this condition is impacting them, and they end up in the criminal system or they end up on heavy medication that really takes them out of society or taking their lives.
One of the things I found out was, so Khalil had ADD.
Did he?
Yes, he did. And they say that any kid that suffers with ADD, ADHD, they are more prone to have these kind of thoughts because they're more prone to fall into depression and things of that nature, because there's already a neurological situation going on already. So then you go and you get them on medications, right? These medications sometimes make them hostile. They're withdrawing, they're supposed to calm them down, but it makes them overthink things also. So while they're on these medications, they need to also be in therapy. And I didn't know that. Khalil used to take his medication, but he would say, Mom, I don't like the way this makes me feel.
I don't like the way this makes me feel. Don't get out of the shot. I don't like the way this makes. And that happens a lot of times. You know, and I heard that last night in the support group, that family members will talk about how it makes me feel because it's not the right medication or too much of something. And then rather than feeling that way, they just stop taking it altogether.
So now your body is going through withdrawals of taking the medication. You know, so now it's trying to balance itself back out, but it's kind of hard to do so.
And then for them not to understand that what you're feeling is real, even if they knew what you're feeling is real, and this is why you're feeling this way. So let me help you hold on.
Yes. And boys are not going to be
forthright.
Yeah, they're not going to be open to talk about their feelings, because in our culture, boys don't cry, they don't have feelings. They can't say anything, or they're looked at as being too soft for a boy, you know. So they hold those things in because they don't want to be made ashamed of, you know.
Yeah.
Yes,
well, I do look forward to you coming back.
Yes, ma'am. I sure will.
I look forward to working with you on some of the workshops or symposiums that we can do to help bring our community together to embrace and talk about this challenge that our children, our babies are facing, and then young adults and fully grown adults whose challenges have never ever been addressed and they've never had an avenue to be able to talk about it. I look forward to us being able to have some of those workshops and helping to direct family reunions on including the health of the mind as part of what you do at your family reunion. If you need her to come and talk, need us to be there, we'd be glad to come to a family reunion so that the dialogue can get started. Not so that there's a finger pointing session, but so that we can say to each other, but by the grace of God.
Yes.
But by the grace of God.
But by the grace of God.
There goes I. Thank you all so much for joining. Thank you for liking and sharing this very, very, very critical conversation with this mom who walked in on her son hanging in his closet to his death, but by the grace of God.
But by the grace of God.
I'm Pamela Coons at the Wellness Radio TV. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
And remember, there is healing at the well. We'll see you next time.